All right, everyone. Well, welcome back to Always on the Hunt. Today, we have a very special, exciting guest, someone who truly embodies the blend of technical skill, creativity, and unstoppable energy that truly makes this industry great. I'm excited to welcome Alesia Hendley, Business Development Manager at Sennheiser, social media influencer, blogger, storyteller, advocate for diversity in AV, and at her core, a highly capable sound engineer and technician who still knows how to get her hands on and make systems work. From running front of house audio as a teenager at her father's church to delivering top tier live event experiences to helping brands connect with their audiences at scale, Alesia has carved out her own unique brand in the AV world. She built her personal brand, The Smooth Factor, that's all about authenticity, energy, and vibes, helping others grow, and she's done it while mastering the craft of both selling and delivering great AV solutions. Alesia, welcome to Always on the Hunt.
Hey, thanks for having me, Leo. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you joining us, and especially, a couple of days after InfoComm. How's your recovery going?
Dude, it's not. Honestly, I've done a poor job this year. I usually the same way you book meetings and all that on the show floor. I usually book my vacation and stuff like that, and I haven't done it yet. So if I had to say, poorly, but we'll get there. I did get some sleep. I am in my home office, and I didn't have to get on a plane to go somewhere else the week after. So that's a blessing.
Yeah, I landed went directly to a graduation party, followed up by a wedding, followed up by Father's Day. So it's been nonstop. And Monday morning, I slept in. I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to take a couple hours for myself and take it a little slow. How was InfoComm? Tell me about it. How was your experience?
InfoComm was great. I think I'm a little biased because I loved the Orlando show. Even before I moved to Florida, that show just felt more organic and authentic to me for some reason. Maybe because it's not, Vegas, and Vegas is just wild, right? But also the layout of that convention center is extremely convenient.
Sure.
A lot of the nightlife and events are walkable, right? Things just flow better in Orlando. I don't know what it is. I like to call it vibes, but everything just feels right in Orlando.
Yeah. I'm more partial to Vegas, maybe because I really like to play poker, but
see, that has nothing to do with the show.
Right.
Everybody goes out. Everybody loves Vegas for different reasons. But my first InfoComm was in Orlando, so that's maybe that's another sweet spot for me.
Sure.
I don't know, but InfoComm was great. I was happy to be back. I just moved from Florida to Texas, so about 3 weeks ago. So it was nice to get back in that Florida humidity, even though everybody hates it. That's kind of one of my favorite things.
Yeah. No, I agree. Orlando is a great spot. Everything's right there. It's very, like you said, walkable, and it kind of helps focus on the show instead of all the other distractions that Vegas brings in.
Seems like it's less pressure, especially for someone like myself that's got something almost every 30 minutes, and if you have the flexibility to get to things quicker, or they're not as far apart, maybe it's less stress. I don't know. But Orlando, I rock with Orlando. I love the convention center. The energy was great. I was excited to be there.
Yeah. So let's talk about your schedule there. Jam-packed, right?
Jam-packed.
Booth, a couple speaking engagements. Talk about that. Like what panels were you on this time, and what did you cover?
Yeah, panels. Let's think about that. I did quite a few. First panels was with Gals in Gear. Shout out to that group of exceptional women that are doing an incredible job to basically highlight what we do in our industry, whether that's from more of an NAB perspective or an InfoComm perspective, right? They're just opening the world up to other young women and letting them know about the possibilities. So we had a panel on the spotlight stage, which was really great. We had a great turnout. I met a bunch of first timers to InfoComm that were also like young women. So, that gets my blood flowing, young women and young men getting into the space, meeting the first timers. We talked about technology and broadcast. We had some really great panelists on there as well. I was a panelist. I wasn't moderating that one, but that was a great way to kick off the show. That panel was Wednesday at 9:30. So it was first thing. It was like, all right, let's go. I also was doing some talking with Commercial Integrator, our biggest publication
Mm-hmm.
in the industry. We were at the HD Base T booth, and we were able to talk about aesthetics when it comes to designing a conference room.
Sure.
Because obviously, when you're looking at Fortune 500 companies, they're doing some really pretty things in their
Yeah.
conference rooms, right? It's almost getting like a commercial version of HDTV or something. They want everything to be
Right.
blended and seamless. They don't want the
Yep.
technology to be seen. They just want it to work. So that was a great conversation. Shout out to my guy Dan over at Commercial Integrator.
Yeah.
Um,
By the way, Dan was my first guest on
he's great.
he's the best. The
He's
best.
the best.
Yeah.
Exactly. You gotta show Dan
Yeah.
love. He's always pushing the industry forward. So having those conversations with him and then the people he's included in those
Yep.
makes for very inclusive conversations, but also engaging conversations because you have so many different viewpoints.
Yeah.
I was on the panel with two consultants.
Nice.
That's always interesting to hear a consultant perspective and their boots on the ground when it comes to talking to end users and how things are being pushed forward. And they're a little bit closer to
Yeah.
the architect, right?
Right.
We don't usually talk about the architect a lot, but they're getting more and more important because what they say goes. Honestly, at this point,
100%. So tell me, like the consultants, what viewpoint do you think that they bring that's a little bit different than maybe the manufacturer representatives?
partnership. I think they truly understand their role when it comes to their partnership and their relationship with the end users, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think what we are working on and getting better at is how resellers and manufacturers um, start engaging with consultants. Obviously, we've been engaging with them, but I think that relationship needs to be fostered a little bit more instead of saying, hey, we need to know the consultants just so they spec our product and not the other product, right?
Right.
It's deeper than that. They're at the table sometimes before us.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to be a part of. And if you have those relationships, more of us might be able to get at those tables together. And that's another thing we talked about on that panel was the partnerships and the relationships between architects, consultants, manufacturers, and the end users.
Mm-hmm.
And they started touching on general contractors and things like that. Like from a manufacturer standpoint, we're so far removed from that. We're not talking to the GCs or the architects and things like that unless they're trying to design something really unique and they need to know if a product can do what they think
Right.
it can do, right? So I think the conversation of how we do more together sooner as opposed to being reactive, it was a great conversation.
Good. Good. Yeah. It's interesting from my recruiter perspective, like there's a number of my clients that actually have like a consultant liaison, right?
Yeah.
And other companies don't. And I feel like it's probably a position that makes a lot of sense to get in as early as possible and to get into that design phase. So you actually understand like what they're trying to accomplish rather than just trying to put a bid together.
Yeah. We're always, our industry was built on moving boxes. So
Right.
we're the reactive side to it. Oh, okay. You need 10 boxes. Here you go. Right. We weren't, the traditional sense of our industry was not, let's get a seat at the table and let's truly design for a true experience. Like before Avixa changed their name to the experience. Right. So,
Right.
I mean, we're growing, we're learning, and it was a great place. Obviously Infocom is a great place to be having those conversations. So it was awesome.
Yeah. And you really do Infocom. Like people and Infocom, like you do Infocom, like talk about your mindset and why is this show so important to you?
This show is so important to me because it's one of the first major trade shows I went to. I went to DSE before, like back in the day before the whole transition of people that own that show. And that was a smaller show, but this was my first big show at this scale. And it changed the game for me, being able to network and get in front of so many different people, so many different companies. It was how I was able to get a better job. You know what I mean? Like it was the start of everything for me. And I remember the first time I went, I was like, man, this is such a really cool show. What if I went and I started creating content too? And I got with my boy, shout out to Alex, because he's been with me since day one.
Yep.
We used to be end users together, and one day we had some downtime, and I was like, listen, bro, I got this crazy idea. What if we go to the show and we capture it like a travel vlog?
Yeah.
Like make just like hype. That's like a hype video, right? Because text and specs, you can get a you could get a tech sheet for that, or you could go to the booth, or you could watch other people's videos, whatever the case was. I wanted to do something different that was just fun and kind of
Mm-hmm.
out there.
I enjoy them. I enjoy all your dancing videos
Yeah,
and
like something different.
right.
So Infocom is really dear to my heart. It was my first major trade show, and it changed the game for me personally. But as far as going into the show, I take months of preparation, months and
Yep.
months of preparation. One, because I work for a manufacturer that shows on the show floor, right? So I have to make sure I'm good to go with there. Make sure I have all my clients lined up for their meetings. Make sure I know what's in the booth, because 9 times out of 10 we're releasing something new.
Right.
So I want to make sure I'm on top of my game there, so that way I can do my elevator pitch with passion and know what's happening within our products internally, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Selling that and engaging with our clients there. So that's
Right.
one chunk of things that I'm focused on. Then the next chunk is kind of like working with my individual partners, because I do own my own company,
Mm-hmm.
creating content. So that next chunk is like, all right, we've got the foundation of the Sennheiser booth down. Next thing is the foundation of my partner booths, right?
Yeah.
What's the story they're telling? How are we going to tell that story? How are we going to make that engaging? So there's lots of meetings happening there, which takes months of time and
Right.
scheduling. And then also I like to try and make time for to continue building my brand, right? I think
Yeah.
I walk into any room like nobody knows me still, and I want to always keep it that way, because there's so many people in the world. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many people to meet, and
It always kills me when I talk to people and like, oh, I know everybody in the industry. I'm like, there's no way.
no way.
Like I am one of the most, not to brag, but like I'm definitely one of the most connected
Yeah.
people in this space. And I feel like maybe 10, 15%, like I walk
Yep.
through these aisles and I'm like, I don't know these people, right?
Exactly. There's no way. So
Right.
I try to schedule out and carve time to be in certain, whether that's after hour events or certain on the show floor happy hour mixers type
Right.
deal. Or like this year, I even hosted my own kind of random pop up. Everybody was reaching out like, hey, I want to meet you. I want to meet. And I'm like, I can't do a bunch of one offs at Infocom. I would never
Yeah.
have enough time. So I was
Yeah.
just like, hey, we're going over to main event. If you want to come hang out, come
Nice.
out. We had
Yeah.
about 60, 80 people show up. It was
That's
crazy.
awesome. That's awesome.
So hopefully next year I could throw an actual party. We'll see.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, like I had my step tracker. I
Yeah.
averaged 6.5 miles a day, just going back and forth and from meeting to meeting, or booth to booth. But I do the same thing. To me, Infocom is the big event, right? It is
Yep.
the main
It's our
event.
Super Bowl. It's our Super Bowl, and you got to be prepared for it, And then honestly, like I was in reflection, I was like, man, I think everyone in the industry, no matter what company you work for, if you went to Infocom, you should get like a comp week off after the show.
Right.
Like,
Well,
because the physical wear and tear on your body is the mental
yeah.
wear and tear, like it's a lot. The show is a lot. It's a lot of hard work, and you're going 18-hour days, 16-hour days, right?
Right. It's 8 to 10 hours on your feet, then immediately going to the after hours events, and then
Yep. It's tough.
Yeah. Besides the booths, I always find the magic is actually in the aisles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like same way you and I bumped into each other,
Yeah.
right? Like, oh, hey, right? Like the best conversations I had were in the aisles, not in the booths, and not in the meeting rooms, none of that. Like, although those were all important, right? But
absolutely, those in passing moments though are they're little gems, like they're little
yeah.
nuggets that you can't equate them to like a huge ROI, but as an individual, those moments are what make the show, right?
Yeah.
So it's
100%.
they're just as important.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about your personal brand and everything you're doing. Obviously you're doing some great things for Sennheiser and business development side, but like you mentioned, your own personal branding and your marketing, right? Your marketing services. Talk about that a little bit. Like how did you go about building your brand? Was it something that you sat down and you're like, all right, I got to create this persona, or is this something that came very natural? Talk about that.
I mean, It started because I was an end user for many years.
Hmm.
And I hit a pay cap one, and I was never going to be my boss in like 15 years until he like retired or unfortunately would like have to die or something, you know.
Right.
And and unfortunately I wouldn't be next, right? It's
Right.
not like I would be like, oh yeah, Alicia's the assistant, let's just promote her. I didn't see that for myself. So I realized that I had hit a cap from an end user perspective, and I was like, all right, what can I do next? And I kind of found the world of infocom. So I was like, oh wow, I might be able to work for the companies of the products that I've been running my whole life. So I started creating content about the products that I was using my day to day, whether it was, you know, running front of house for an arena or directing uh, content on a big Daktronic screen for a football game, right? You
Right.
know, I just started telling those stories, and I realized like, okay, this could be my resume.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
unfortunately, I did not go to college. I went to a trade school. You know, I went and got my 1 year certification in audio engineering. So when I walked into a room for an interview, I knew what I was up against. Somebody who might have had more experience or had the piece of paper. Uh, so the
Yeah.
personal brand started from the idea of getting a better job, honestly.
Well, yes. And by the way, that's something that's great to hear. Another success story about, one of the things that, and as I have two kids in college and a third on the way, and
Ooh,
the cost of education nowadays is so
yeah,
ridiculous. Yeah. Like you could go get your CTS or do, like you said, Full Sail or
hmm,
any of these schools, trade schools, and you could come out and within a couple of years, six figures plus, like
exactly.
this is an incredible industry to really build your career. So I'm glad to hear you did. But all right, so you want to build your career, but not everyone goes about it the way you did, right? Not everyone
Yeah.
sits there and creates this persona and was it something that just natural to you or is it something that you're very mindful of?
Persona, energy that comes natural. I mean, so the smooth factor came because my nickname was Smooth. I played
Mhm.
basketball in my career and I was point guard. That was my nickname. So
Nice.
that energy has always been there as me as an individual, just having fun, personality, you know. Um, but I wasn't always as confident as I am today,
Mhm.
especially when I was going to places like Infocom and nobody knew me
Right.
and I walk into a bunch of rooms where there's not even a lot of people who look anything remotely like me. So
Yeah.
it was tough at first, but honestly, the smooth factor, it's grown. I've grown, and I just wanted to show other people that you can come into this space and take up space and have a voice as well. So my personal development is very much aligned with my career development, and it's gotten me to where I am now. But the energy, the laughing, the dancing,
Yeah.
that's always been me. I just figured out how to put more of a professional spin on it.
Right.
My photographer that was with me at the show, I actually knew her through a friend of a friend that had shot a couple of parties, right? That we've done like just out on a weekend partying. And she was like,
Right.
man, you work your professional conference the same way you work the dance floor. And she's like,
Right.
people just engage with you no matter where you are. And I want just people to feel me across the board. I just want them to feel that genuine
Yeah.
love for people.
I,
Um,
and
so
I think that's really what it's about, just being your authentic self.
authentic self.
I think people, sometimes feel a need to be too buttoned up and too corporate and too,
Yeah.
where people really love to do business with personalities. Like, you want to be different, you want to be memorable, and too many people are afraid to show their true selves.
Yeah. And I mean, technically they probably have. It might have been on a golf course or somewhere off in the corner smoking cigars and drinking whiskey,
Right.
whatever the guys like to do. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they just, weren't necessarily putting it on a front stage, kind of how I do.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, people have always bought from people.
Right. How do you help your clients kind of like break out of their shells?
Help my clients break out of their shells. Um, that's a hard question to answer, and that's also why I'm very specific about the brands that I work with. Right, they have to get it. A lot of brands still don't get why having an authentic voice matters, right? Because we're
Right.
still focused on selling black boxes. Does you
Hmm.
dancing sell me black boxes? Maybe not lead to a direct sell, but it got somebody's attention, that got them connected to the right salesperson because your salesperson was dancing with me, right?
Right.
Or you know what I mean? Like there's different ways to go about it. But it takes working with the right people who see the vision,
Yeah.
and who honestly understand engagement, right? It's one thing to work with companies and tell a story any kind of way you want, but the
Mhm.
engagement is something that I feel like I bring that's unique, and
Right.
people want a piece of that. And if they understand the engagement, then they understand me, they understand the brand, and then we can find a way to creatively work together. So it's been an exciting journey. It's been a tough journey because I always have this conversation like, how do you sell vibes, bro? Like, I don't
Right.
know. Like, I don't,
You,
like, how do you monetize vibes?
you know what you do? You do because people like, a couple episodes ago, I had a guest on who calls himself the purveyor of fun, right?
Nice.
He's a VP
Nice.
of sales, but he's a purveyor of fun. And then last episode, salesperson who's calls himself the rainmaker, right? Because
There we go.
right, he's a high achiever, but it's all about personality. It's not
Yeah.
about black boxes. When I used to sell, when I was a dealer myself, I had my sales team. I told them like, look, if you ever get into the specs, like if you talk about watts or ohms or amps or
Yeah.
just pack up and leave. Like you got to talk about the experience. You got to talk about the fun. You got to talk about the
Why does it matter?
right.
Why does it
Like
matter?
nobody
Yeah.
wants to split hairs over what this black box does versus the next black box or whatever.
Exactly.
So obviously social media is a big thing that you're using to leverage your and in building community. I think that's something also that is a really big deal for you, right? If I let's talk about that a little bit. You
Yeah.
mentioned walking into the room and no one looked like you. Obviously, unfortunately, this is still an issue that we deal with in the AV world. A lot of middle-aged white men, and we're getting. I think that diversity is getting better and so forth like that, and it's getting more welcoming and so forth. But talk about your journey. Let's touch about
Yeah.
not just your journey, but what you're also doing currently.
Yeah. And I mean, I used to, when I first started in this industry, I wanted to be a middle-aged white man so bad. Like,
It's not that much fun, trust me.
but it seemed like that was how you got opportunity, right? Like I was like, how do I achieve this? Like, how do I go into a room and achieve this? And it felt like I had to be that. So when
Right.
I first started out, I was very much khakis and polos.
Mm,
Like,
yeah.
like I was like, I'm just gonna show up in khakis and polos and maybe I could blend in. But shortly after, and I'm thankful to a lot of those men who have been in the room to be able to have those conversations with where that had created a safe space for me.
Right.
To have those conversations and say, pour into me and say, hey, be yourself. We all love you, and kind of give me that reassurance because we all need it from time to time. A lot of people assume that I've always been the most confident, and that's not true. Like, we all climb the steps of
Yep.
finding ourselves and finding that, authentic energy that we all have inside of ourselves. But for me, it was just trying to figure out how to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations.
Yeah.
Uh, and then once I kind of got that down and created the platform that I have now, it's like, okay, how do I stand out even more so that people that look like me or similar to me, whatever the case was, or maybe share similar backgrounds, maybe we don't look alike, but maybe we share similar backgrounds. You started in church, I started in church, whatever the case is, just the next generation, I wanted to inspire them and say, hey, we could have a voice here, we could take up space here.
Right.
And once I created a platform, then my goal was to give people a voice as much as I can, whether that was interviewing them for commercial integrator, interviewing them on a show floor, whatever the case was. I was like, we all could do this. We could all do this. I'll introduce you to as many people as I can. It's just something that it truly fills my cup because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it's part of my legacy is to create this community and bring people with me and let them know, hey, this is a cool industry because it's not a space where everybody knows about it. Even though we just came from a show where there's hundreds,
Yeah.
there's thousands of people there, there's still so many people who don't even know we exist.
Yeah.
So part
Oh,
of
like,
my
and I
part of my
still say
job.
that, like I said, this was by the way, my 25th year of going
25th,
25th. Yeah.
dude.
Got into the industry in 1999. So 25 years. I don't know if I hit all 25. Maybe I missed one or COVID. I think
Yeah.
I missed one. Anyways, Yeah, you could have walked down International Drive and asked random people like, "Hey, do you know what a VIXA is? Do you know what Infocom is?" And they're like, "No, I have no idea." Right.
Yeah.
So we still got a long way to go, but especially in the communities that you're reaching into, I think more so.
Right. I'm trying to meet people where they are. You know what I'm saying? I don't see any of our let me take that back. I don't want to say I don't see any, but it takes a lot of work to go into a space that you're completely unfamiliar with and do the work and pour into people.
Yeah.
So I think that's why some people or foundations or organizations are hesitant, right? Maybe they don't know where to
Mhm.
start. Maybe they don't know where to go, whatever the case is. So, I mean, I come from these places, and my job is to go in, grab a few people, bring them with me, and, hopefully they stick around and go back and do it all over again. This is what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
I truly believe it's part of my legacy, and that's why I'm so passionate about it. So,
And I love it. I think legacy is so important, something that I strive, right, to do as well. It's one of the reasons why it's weird. Like recruiting isn't something that most people want to get into.
yeah,
I never thought about it, but um, after I sold my company and I was looking for, I'm like, I wanted to stay in the AV industry, and someone's like, "Hey, why don't you become a recruiter? You know everybody, you know the tech, you know this." So I'm like, "All right,
right.
cool. I'll give it a try." And now it's about legacy. It's about how many people can I help? How many people can I, the compensation takes care of itself, but like it's really, about helping people advance their careers and helping companies grow and so like that, and be able to point to them like, yeah, I really helped that person out, which is
Exactly. All of this is about people.
yeah. So
People won't forget what you've done for them, Leo.
right. So let's talk about some of these organizations that you work with. Sound Girls. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you want to talk about that a little?
Yeah, Sound Girls is great, man. That's kind of how I was able to get my start, being a part of that, and heading the chapters out here in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Was really what do you want to call it, like a boost in my career.
Yeah.
We hosted a lot of trainings. We went from city to city in Texas, hosting Allen and Heath trainings, teaching young women how to operate soundboards. And, it was amazing. It was amazing. Sound Girls was a true community for me, where I not only saw people who looked like myself, but others that were pursuing a career and had been doing it, and we could all learn from each other.
Yeah.
So shout out to Sound Girls, shout out to Carrie and the team over there. Um, it's a constant organization that's growing, and any young woman that I find in sound. I went to a concert in Austin a couple of weeks ago, and there was a young lady running in front of the house, and I was like, I gotta meet you. Like, I'm running up completely fangirling, and at first she was looking at me kind of crazy, but we get to talking, and she's like, oh, that's really cool. So it's another form of community. It's another form
Mm-hmm.
of connections, and being able to learn from one another. So Sound Girls is great organization.
Awesome. Um, when you think about breaking into this industry, and obviously, like your path, right? You maybe felt that you had to, but internally you had like these uncomfortable, right? Like, how do you mentally break through? Like, talk about that. Like, at what point do you just sit there and say, "F it, I'm going for mine," right? Like how do you get over that mental hurdle?
uh Man, that's a great question. I think I kind of just got fed up
Mhm.
with, don't get me wrong, I know how to take the no's, right? You got to take the no's
Yeah.
with the yeses. I mean, it gets you closer to the yeses. But I think I was getting fed up with hitting the wall, or hitting that glass ceiling that they say, whatever it is. And I was like, all right, let's think out of the box. How can I just crack that glass ceiling wide open to where the talent, the person, the skill speaks for itself.
Right.
And yeah, I think I just got fed up. I
Yeah. Which
mean,
is,
that's a good way. That's the best way to put it.
yeah, and I think it's also the I think a lot of people hold themselves back sometimes, where they're just like, oh, like you said, it's uncomfortable or a little intimidating, and then you just realize, like, like even like me doing this podcast at first was really scary for me to put myself out there.
Right.
Naturally, I'm an introvert, but sometimes you just got to do it, right?
And
Because
it didn't always come natural to me. People were like, "Oh, you're so great on camera. You should have saw the first time I gave a presentation."
right,
And honestly, it wasn't that many people in the room, but it was the worst thing ever. After I walked out and I cried. It was so bad. It was so badly. I'm not kidding. It was the worst ever. I was like, I completely failed this. I don't belong here. You could kind of get in your head, but at the end of the day, I wanted this so bad.
Hmm.
And I didn't have another avenue. Like I hurt myself playing basketball. I couldn't get a scholarship anymore. Like this was it. So I was
Yeah.
like, all right, you better find your superpower, which in my mind, my superpower is resilience. Like you've been here before. Let's keep being resilient. And so this is going to pay off. But just get comfortable doing very uncomfortable things and it starts working out sooner or
Yeah.
later.
It's funny you mentioned playing basketball. Like I again, from my recruiter seat, like I see a lot of successful, especially in sales,
Yeah.
former athletes, right? It's the competitiveness, it's that drive, it's that work ethic, right? You feel like
Yeah.
your athletic background like helped prepare you for that.
Oh yeah. I mean, it taught me teamwork. It taught me to rely on my teammates in hard situations. But it told me to also be a leader as a point guard. Like
Hmm.
I had to lead my team through some really difficult situations. And I mean, you get out there, you go get it, right? It taught me
Right.
grind. You got to practice, you get better, right? It taught me, yeah, it's definitely the foundation of a lot of soft skills that I have now, which are just as important as our technical skills. So,
Even more so, right?
yeah.
You could always find a technical answer,
Right.
right?
You can learn that. I think soft skills are something that is a little harder to learn or teach. So definitely athletic background helped me out a lot.
So, if you were going to talk to somebody and it sounds like you do this quite a bit, but somebody entering this space, this industry, or looking to grow,
Hmm.
and achieve, your levels of success, what advice would you give them? Like, what do you think?
Man,
What do you think people need to do to really stand out and get ahead?
it's a balance. It's a balance of technical skills and a balance of those soft skills that we were just talking about, right? So whenever I'm giving advice to say a younger version of myself, I always tell them to go get those free certifications. Dante is in almost every audio product on the show floor last week, right?
Yeah.
Get your Dante certifications. It's free.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
free. Get your Dante certification, get your QSIS certifications. There's a bunch of free knowledge out there. Stack up on that free stuff as much as you can because, hey, I know how it is to be pretty broke and trying to attend an infocom or, trying to get your CTS with little cash in your pocket. So that, take advantage of the free stuff. And then on the backhand, when it comes to the soft skills, connect with people. That's networking. So that's part of the being uncomfortable, in rooms that you're not necessarily comfortable in. And that comes with practice. So I always say, hey, find those networking events, whether they're in your hometown, even if it has nothing to do with AV, right? It just,
Right.
is there a
Learn,
real,
learn the skills,
yeah,
right?
just learn it. Is there like a business networking hour that you can go to? Do it. Just go and get the practice in, because
Yeah.
that develops those soft skills that we're talking about.
And shout out to our industry. Like, I feel like we're a really friendly, welcoming industry. There's
Yeah.
not a lot of egos. It's not like we're all like a bunch of, finance bros or
Yeah. I guess it could always be worse. So
yeah,
yeah.
high powered lawyers or something. Like
Yeah,
I find in general, most people are warm and friendly. And if you have a
that's
little bit
true.
of personality and you can make them laugh a little bit, like
Yeah.
you could break down a lot of barriers. Um, in regards to though, like standing out, because I think that's really something that you do really well, right? So like I want to keep like digging.
Not hard. I don't wear khakis and polos, man.
Right.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. But
But
because I think that's something, like even for me, like I had to, start this podcast a little bit, to get, I
mhm.
do a lot of LinkedIn posting. I do, I walk around the Infocom wearing really loud,
Yeah.
jackets
Yeah.
with, where people are like, man, like what couch did you cut up for that? Right.
Right. Yeah.
But, you got to stand out. You got to be a little bit different, right?
Yeah. Get your swag on, whatever works for you.
Right. Exactly. Um, any recommendations for people who are doing that, or like how do people find? I guess they're like you said, find their swag.
Yeah, yeah. Find your swag, man. For me, it was like, all right, I want to be professional. How do I do that without I keep making the khaki and polo reference, but how do I do that and show up as me? So for me, it was the suits. All right, I'm gonna come in a fly suit every time, and I'll feel like the best version of me. So one, if fashion might not be your thing, but make sure you're comfortable in the skin that you're in. whether that is a bright colored jacket, a suit, a hat, I don't know, walking on the show floor with your dog, if possible. Like, I don't know, like, you know, find
you got to do something.
Find something that you're passionate about and find a way to tie it into what you're doing. It can be challenging, but it can be done, right? If you love basketball, maybe come out with your best J's and make sure you go to the AV sneaker meetup, right? There's ways to get engaged. So you just have to get a little bit creative. And if you want help with that, let me know. It's not always about working with businesses. I love partnering with people and figuring out how we can best make other people their best authentic selves as well.
Well, that's a great segue. So how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my jam. Okay. Also use LinkedIn. Don't just use it as a freaking job finding platform. Like it's a piece of social media as well. If you use that tool slightly different, it's easy to stand out there. But yeah, definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my jam.
Yeah, LinkedIn is great. Like when I started regularly posting on LinkedIn, everyone would be like, "Oh, I know you from LinkedIn." Like
utilize it. LinkedIn is my favorite social platform. LinkedIn is my favorite social platform. So obviously LinkedIn, Alesia Hendley, or type in the Smooth Factor. You find me on every other social platform. It's at the Smooth Factor, and my website, thesmoothfactor.com.
Awesome. Well, Alesia, I really appreciate you joining me today. This was a fun conversation, and definitely keep doing what you're doing. We definitely enjoy watching your career and all the growth you've had, and obviously everything you're doing for our industry. So thanks again for joining us. And to the listeners, if you're still here, thank you for listening. Hit that like, subscribe button. Would really appreciate the 5-star rating as well. And hope you join us again next week. And until then, good luck with your hunts.